Okay, I'll represent my group to highlight some main points that we have discussed. So the first thing is about exposed in a new environment. In the context that we quite isolate here in the unit. And actually for PhD students, we need more opportunity for them to have more experience, maybe in rotate in different group or collaborate with different lab in different places. So the second thing is mentorship opportunities. So we know that we have some mentorship within the unit, maybe with your group head, the person that you're working with, but we're still thinking we need more, maybe from a third party outside the unit or outside of the scientific direction that you now working with. So the third is, so we think, we discuss about other kind of different sorts of opportunity for funding. So we thinking about fellowship. That's most of the thing, or most of the kind of grant that PhD student thinking about. But besides that, we also thinking for different kind of funding. For example, funding for equipment to run a new assay in the group. So the fourth point is so about reputation. So how to make your reputation? So like it is a conflict in the discussion. So I think most of people agree that maybe social media is a good tool that we should use to promote ourselves and our research, but I disagree with that. So the number 5, the idea is about we quite isolated in Vietnam. It is how to say a geographic isolation, so that we would like to improve it, so that other places know us better internationally. So then about, I cannot read my writing. So something about how to build your group. What do we discuss?
It was the language barriers.
Okay.
The perception that internally that you don't communicate your research. You have plenty of ideas, but the sort of language barriers in getting that across, you felt that.
Yeah, remember that. So one of the things we discussed is about the barrier, language barrier. As that's my difficulties when I try to help PhD student or postdoc in my group to apply for grant, but some native speakers, they disagree with that. They said that is the difficulties for everyone, native and non-native speaker. We also talk about identify your niche so that you can develop your research direction easier if you think more about your niche and develop it. Also about a balance in of security and risk. When you try to do something different than what you have been trained and you follow it for a long time. Okay, that's all.
Excellent. Lindsay, do you want to take language?
It's quite okay.
It's quite okay.
Because we use microphone. Yeah. Hi everyone. It is our group, and actually I think we follow exactly the scheme. We have discussed about 5 topics. The first is about the research direction, and On has discussed about and thinking about it is exactly the research idea, and it is not easy for everyone, and it have to base on the experience, the research experience, the capacity of the location, the trend in the research, and the opportunity to get fund to decide the research direction. And the most important question is it should relevant to the current problem and who care about your research question. About in this part, we mostly discuss about the question that how to ensure yourself to work as an independent researcher, and I'd like to ask Teng to share his opinion because he's have a great comment.
Well, I think that's very challenging, isn't it? But I think so. Keep going, and then so if you have grant, and keep thinking about what is the next grants, what you're going to do next. So and running your research group properly, sharing purposes. Your success is their success is your success. Make sure that you look into different dimensions of building up your reputations in order to progress. But I admit that it is really challenging. I hope we can work together.
Thanks, Teng. For the second point, we discussed about the research funding, and all agree that before finding a research funding, we should have a good proposal and asking for advice, comment, and opinion from supervisor and from collaborators, from the people who work with you. And there's many kind of sources to find the information about the funder. We could contact directly the funder. Also, many information on the website. And we can ask to find a suitable funder from a network, and also like some unit like Okru, we have a grant manager like Katrina. We should ask her about the eligibility of the proposal to be applied to suit what scheme. For the third point is management yourself. We mostly discuss about management in two sides. The first one is about the scientific point, that we should make sure that should manage our time to make sure that the project which get fund to be delivered the right way, and keeping track on what have been done, and also have to commit that there should be an outcome, a product after that, because people should not do long-term research without any outcome, and setting a very clear goal about the scientific point. The second point is about management through learning skill, many skill training like management skill, leadership, monitoring skill, and through that the leader, the researcher should building the trust to have a further career development. The fourth point is about building team, and it should be, we have discussed about we should have to choose the right person to be in the team, delegate the right things to the people, have a common win-win relationship between the team, and through this develop the people in the team as well, and the leader himself, and also have to make sure that the research key goals have been addressed. About building reputation, the last point we discussed about there's many way to build a reputation, but most important is about publication, the people you train, the network you have, and also the communication between collaborators and external to share the idea. So it is what we have discussed. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to be sharing some feedback from our group, but I'm sure that other members of the group will jump in if I miss anything out or misrepresent them. So one of the kind of most important things that we spoke about in terms of the grant applications was independence, and to demonstrate independence, especially for the fellowships, rather than grant applications. So to think really clearly about how you're going to demonstrate independence from the group, from your existing group. And that's kind of especially challenging maybe for us in Vietnam, because a lot of us are going to be thinking about research questions in Vietnam and putting in applications for that. So so support letters from your institution that highlight, that kind of emphasize that you're independent and that you're making a break from your existing research. So the second thing is that Wellcome are very focused on people. So it's kind of 50% people, 50% project. So that obviously can be a great strength, but also that's also part of where the focus on independence comes from, because they want you as a person to be independent. So maybe other funders who are more focused on project might be a good fit if the independence issue might be a problem. So we spoke also about the kind of the fact that you have to be ambitious and realistic, and the difficulties of that. So how do you make that balance? How do you get that balance? So if you want to have a kind of more ambitious aspect to your project, then it really helps to have the kind of backing of someone who's kind of world class in that area. That's going to increase the feasibility in the committee's eyes that you're going to be able to deliver on that part of the project. So kind of building on, just to hit the same point that the couple of the previous groups made, I think, about importance being one of the key things, because it's going to be a really diverse panel who's looking at your application. So the first thing you really need to tell them is why they should care. So so kind of importance and big pictures key. Yeah. So and then kind of building the group, hiring people and building culture is really important. So even if you have an application round through and don't feel obliged to hire the person just because you've gone through that whole process if they're not the right fit. So kind of go back through the whole process, because you're going to invest a lot of time working with that person, and especially early on it can be really detrimental if those relationships in the group aren't very good. So I think that was about it, really. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Thanks. I'll add some more things that we have discussed. We have a lot of questions from people in the groups, and we talk about the impact of the research. So, for example, if we have applications about specific things in Vietnam, but then we can apply for funding, and the result from the application is not just for the local only, but it can implement globally. And one point for making sure that your grant will get over the first gate is that get more people to read your applications, because the committee member will be very broad. We also talk about how to managing yourselves as well. Work with people. Some advice from our senior people in the group is that we should work with people that we can get on well, and we should manage ourselves so that we can balance the workload, because we will have different activities while having lots of things, teachings, and then research things. We also talk about the mentorships as well. Maybe as junior or even senior people, we need someone to help with a mentor. Maybe they are just businessmen or women who are not in science but can give advice, good advice for us. And we also having interesting discussion on the building reputation. For someone who are juniors as we are, we can attend conference, talks, poster. Interesting advice I've taken is that if you are invited to a talk and you are not confident, you accept it. Just give a talk. Give a talk even though you are not confident on it. And then some good advice on managing groups that Phil has just mentioned about.
So my group, the group I'm sitting here is that we have people as a PhD students, we have early postdoc, intermediate postdoc, and we have group heads here as well. And the group started with talking about how do you want to be managed in your group. It means how would you manage your group in the future, for example. And we have idea from people say, I would like to have someone can motivate me, can give me encouragement, but also can give me a critical comments. And that's what they want to work with. And then we also discuss about how we can get independence when we are postdoc in the group, because no one expects that the 10 postdoc will lead the 10 group later. Unit become 20 groups, for example. It's too much for our group. But then how we can have it, our own group, so that we cannot be whole life under one group head. And then we're talking about you don't have to be, you have your own group to be a group head, but you can be a PI in your group, and then make sure you communicate with group head to understand that it can be either within the group, but if you accept that your niche or your research project or idea is separated, it's so much different from the group, then you need to discuss, because there might be a group need to be formed, for example. So that's what we talk about. And then we also talk about communication within the groups, how it can be effective. Some people may find one-to-one communication with group head or their line manager is effective, but some people think that a group head, the group discussion or group meeting would be exchangeable ideas, scientific exchange ideas better. But when it happens in the daytime, some people early morning, some people late morning. So we talk about that as well. And we need to bear in mind that affects how we perform. We talk about diversity of the groups, research group. So it's a tendency that when you are a postdoc or PhD student in the group and then become a postdoc and you have your own group within the unit, and then you tend to keep the people working with you to form a group, like keep your student with you, keep your PhD student with you, become a postdoc, but then at a time you will realize that you need new idea and then you don't have it. So you have to balance between keeping the people in your group and also the employ or recruit people from outside to have a more scientific exchange and a new idea. We talk about network, and we talk about how we deal with competitor within the unit or outside, external and internally. How you communicate that, how you make sure that you have your people respect the border, the boundary, and at a certain point you may see that you can't do everything yourself. Then you need to have a collaborative team. Internally, externally. We also talk about what's it important to go for a conference, how you build your reputation and networking. And we talk about how people can go for a conference. Do you have to be Zen to be in the conference? If you are new, then, but the important at the end, we say that we need to communicate the people who can help you to make decision of going conference, of why you want to go to that conference. It doesn't have to be presenting your idea. If you're new, if you're working for 6 months or a year, but you need to make your own networking. You do have a right to go. You need to exchange that with the people who make decision. And we talk about mentors. We think that mentor, it doesn't need to be your group head. It doesn't need to be your line manager. The line manager will work with you to help you develop your career, but that's their responsibility. It's not your mentor. As a group leader, you have to help people working under you to develop. You can't hold them back. But that may not be a mentor. And you may have a mentor from outside, from other group as well, within here or outside. And you don't have to have one. You can have 2 or 3. It depends on their expertise who can help you to develop. We also think that mentor is someone should be not a direct competitor with you. For example, you shouldn't be in the same field with the person, or your success will bring the success to other people, or your success will bring a competition or lose their chance, for example. So it's better that someone you feel trust and someone care. Someone you trust, someone who care for you. Also, we call the term we say a sympathetic mentor. And that's what you're looking out for. We talk about how is that if everyone in a group had how you see yourself balance between your own research development, your staff research development, and also work-life balance. We don't talk much about work-life balance, but we mention it so that we bear in mind that's also part important in your life. And lastly, we talk about how you build your reputation. We talk about presentation in the conference, but sometimes presentation is not helping you to exchange that much because you get in the state, everyone see you and give a talk, but then at the end you don't discuss much with it. Poster sometimes is a good tool for you to exchange idea and get people come to you, and you have a lot more opinions, people will come, and then you have your chance to come to other people's poster and learn from other people as well. You sit in the panel if you can, review paper or run application if you can, and if you are very busy with your position, you cannot review. Some people receive a lot of requests to be reviewed, but sometimes we say no, you don't have time. Within 2 weeks, I'm sorry, I'm busy, you turn it down. But before you turn it down, maybe you think of your junior staff in your group who can do that task as well, but don't ask them to do it and take your credit. You actually recommend that person to do it. With the journal, that would be helpful and help people to develop and getting to know by the researcher in the field. Now, you can tweet your scientific findings, or you read about a paper and you can tweet and let people know that you work in the field. I think that's what I noted down, but anyone please can add it in.
Are you good to go, Sonia? Yeah. Excellent. Yes, please. Feedback.
Yeah, well, we acknowledge that a lot of what we've been doing so far has been quite narrow. So it was really useful to have a discussion about how we can be more strategic in how we network and build our reputation. I think quite a lot of the issues have been covered already, but we talked about mentorship and the fact that we're in a smaller group in Hanoi, we talked about how we could make the most of our internal opportunities for mentoring each other, and we're going to form a Hanoi postdoc group, postdocs and PhDs, and also making opportunities to find mentors outside of our group, so either through the wider Oak group, through the OTN, and through conferences and other scientific societies. And the fact that the importance of networking at conferences to build that kind of network of mentors, but also building the reputation and putting our work in a broader context when we want to apply for a fellowship. And we also talked about demands on our time. All three of us being parents, we talked about how we juggle our kind of parenting responsibilities and the idea of having more flexibility and independence to manage our time was one of the points that we thought was an important one to take forward. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I think what's clear is that there are a lot of common themes coming through, and obviously you had the guide in front of you, so that provides a bit of a framework. But the other thing that I think has come out sort of loud and clear, to me there are four sort of major themes that you've started to sort of pick up. One is how to get yourself better known internationally, you know, making the best use of conferences, making the best use of social media if that's the way you do it. And there I think, you know, thinking both practically for yourself personally, but also maybe at the postdoc society level or within the unit, what opportunities you might be able to pick up. I think that's quite handy. Networking skills coming up time and time and time again. again, it's not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. You know, going to a conference and presenting a paper, even if you don't want to do it, is one thing, and that's obviously a great way. But in a way, it's a bit of a wasted opportunity if that's, you build all your energy and effort up into that, but don't make the personal connections whilst you're there. So I think some thinking about how to develop those networking skills, especially when it's not something that you particularly feel comfortable doing, and finding some ways to sort of support you in that would be quite handy. Mentorship is a big issue, and that comes up at all levels. Actually, our very senior directors, all the way through to our master's students coming through, and I think it's something that we all need all the way through life. Quite frankly, finding a group of individuals that you can trust and bounce ideas off. So it's not a sign of failure. It's not a sign of being weak, and it is something that I think you need to be personally comfortable with taking some control over yourself. So it is possible for you to develop mentorship relationships, even if they're not called that formally, with people that you meet in different settings. They can be completely different walks of life as well. But you will need, obviously, scientific individuals that you can trust. So I think that would be a useful thing to think about for yourselves. But also, I think Okra is thinking about mentorship more widely and how that might play out. And then the time management one, it's sort of 101 of any job, really, isn't it? And that's learning how to say no politely in a way that doesn't damage your career. And there, I think, some of that will be practice. And I think it will be a case of, you know, you developing the things that work well for you. And the guide goes into a little bit of detail, but this was one of those areas where we got a lot of animated discussion as we were pulling this together. There's always that, well, what if I ever want to work with them again? You know, what if, you know, in 6 years' time they turn out to be the person that can hold my career back? And I think there's an issue in here about being true to yourself, being clear why you're going to take something on, and almost thinking about what it does for you, what it does for your career, and what it does for your experience. And if you're going to say no, the issue is about saying no politely and promptly rather than delaying it. It's not an easy one, but I hope that actually that's given you some insight into what sort of 60 to 100 fellows were most concerned about, our panels themselves, and it sounds like those issues resonate with you, and perhaps through your postdoc society or through some of your local networks here, you can develop your own confidence in those areas, as well as maybe develop some tools that help you at a local setting here in Ho Chi Minh, but also in Hanoi as well. So, Lee, I don't know if you wanted to respond to any of what you've heard in terms of how it fits into the broader thinking that you've got.
Yeah, and Katrina as well. Pass on to Katrina. I think looking at it from the point of, firstly, the Stock Society, and I think these are discussions that have already started at that level, so it's really nice to see everyone chatting about it more, and in particular getting the feedback from the team at the Wellcome Trust, which is great. From a PhD perspective, I think it's really useful for the PhD students that are in the room to get this, to force them to think about these things early, which is great, which I think we can continue on, and particularly pick up on the networking aspect. It is really, really important, and it can't be underestimated, and we will touch on that more with the PhD training tomorrow. But I think in terms of, from my perspective, that's about it. But
I would just say that it was nice in my group to hear everyone say, oh, we'll just ask Katrina when we want to look for grants. Actually, you don't just have to rely on me to point you in the right direction, but I just wanted to reiterate to everyone that when you are grant seeking and thinking about your next steps in your career, remember that you're not alone if you are part of OCRU, and we actually do have a team here that can support you, and we will help you to find funding, and we will give you advice about where to go for your career and help you to liaise with any collaborators or any funders or anything like that. So just remember, you do have to, of course, work towards independence, but independence is something that requires you to collaborate. So come and see me if you want to do anything specific after this.
So I think we're just about at lunch now, aren't we? But just to reiterate Katrina's point, you know, although you have to develop your own independent vision, research increasingly is collaborative and it's networked, and those are skills that you need to feel comfortable with. Even when you come into a fellowship panel and we're looking at the person, we're looking at your role in the big picture. So it is entirely plausible to have a team-based approach and still get a fellowship. So bear that in mind. Generally, I have to say, the research community are rather lovely. You know, there is a lot of generosity in that community because everybody is going through the same sort of thing. But your point about when you're looking for mentorship, have maybe one step removed, that can be also very helpful. So on that note, I think we'll close this particular session and we'll start back at